Welcome back to the show, everyone. I'm your host, Dr. Mel. Today, we're going to finish up our two-part conversation with Sarah Kahn, and we're still talking about the 4 parts of the Audacity Factor. Today, we're going to cover parts 3 and 4. We unpacked the first 2 principles last week, and if you missed that episode, you need to go back and listen to it before you start this episode. The first 2 were purpose and priorities. And just as always, we're going to provide you with some practical advice and some spiritual insights to empower you as you move through your personal and professional journeys. Let's get started. Are you in a new season of your life? Are you stuck and searching for clarity so you can make a career change? Do you just need the courage to switch careers? Are you ready to follow God's plan for your career? Welcome to Choose Your Next Yes. Hi, Kindred. I'm Mel, a career transition coach, mom of grown-ups, coffee lover, and God girl. I've had a lot of big life changes, and I haven't always been clear about God's plan for me. This led to stress and anxiety and a lack of clarity and courage to make a career move. I finally started listening to God's voice to find clarity and peace and stopped being scared to make a move and achieve my career transition goals. Now, my mission is to help you learn to listen to God's voice and know when to say yes to the career you've always wanted and no to everything else. Let me show you how to clarify your purpose and find courage to pursue your personal and professional goals in your midlife and beyond. Throw down your self-doubt, dust off your dreams, Kindred. It's time to reset and refine and reclaim the woman you once aspired to be.
Okay, so we've covered the first 2 principles of the Audacity Factor, which are purpose and priorities.
Yes.
Now, the third one, this is super important because now this dives really deep into you. And one of the things that I'm really passionate about, I know I said I didn't like passion, but
Right.
I'm passionate about this, is making sure that you as a human being are honored. So when I talk about capacity, power, this is looking at not just your emotional capacity or your time capacity or your mental capacity. Those are super important. So starting with time capacity, for example, not every person is going to have the same amount of time, right? That rhetoric of like, you have the same 24 hours as Mother Teresa. No, you don't. Like some people are working full time. Some are working part time. Some have children at home, or they are carers of elderly parents or relatives, or they have a chronic illness. Like everybody's got a very different set of circumstances, which impacts their time. And so I used to get really, really frustrated when people would say, if you wanted it bad enough, you would find the time to do it. And it was like, is that true though? Because I'm already giving as much as I have.
Right.
And I can't, like, for example, I was invited to a mastermind, which meets at 6 p.m. Once a week. And I was like, well, I can't accommodate that. And they said to me, well, if you wanted it badly enough and you were, dedicated to your business, you would make the time. And I got really frustrated. Before, I would have gaslit myself into thinking, okay, I'm not working hard enough, or maybe I'm weak. But now I know enough to say, well, actually, after 4 p.m., that's my time for my family.
Exactly.
And, usually it's it's people who don't have kids that don't understand that that's a priority too. So,
Right.
So I was very clear about, I do want it bad enough, but I just don't want it on your timetable, like on your schedule. So I'll find something that aligns a little bit better. So time.
And that also comes back around to God's timing. If you don't have time in your schedule, then you're probably like God's timing. You don't he's not wanting you to grow your business at this moment. He may also be having you sit in this space because there's something he's doing to prepare for you to move forward. And maybe there's something you need to learn, or maybe there's something you need to unlearn before you can move forward.
Exactly. And honoring time is something I think, especially women, moms, women who've come from a traditional 9 to 5 where, your productivity equates your worth. Like we are so programmed to think that in order to be productive, I have to give every moment of my time, and you don't. And so we look at, and this kind of, all of these principles really, they're not in silos. They all kind of intersect with one another. So Capacity intersects with priorities. Like, what are your priorities? Because you get to plan out your day, your week based on what your priorities are. And
Mm-hmm.
so, emotional, like when I had COVID, I could not get out of bed. So the mental, physical capacity was not there. I have friends who have chronic illnesses, and so they can only work a few hours a week. So building a plan, and this is why priorities, like your focus is so important, because if you understand exactly what you need to do, you can build that into the time that you have available
And
instead of like trying to shove everything in.
your priorities may not all be business related.
No. And I
You
think
have
if
to
you
have
have
some
a whole
personal
life, they're not.
priorities.
Yeah. You have spiritual priorities, you have physical priorities if you need to, to take care of your body, you have
Mhm.
familial priorities, you have self-care priorities. Like sometimes you need to just not think about your business, which is really
Right.
hard when you work at home and you're
Right.
staring at the computer all day long. So
And if you
that's
don't prioritize self-care and
oh,
your health and all of that, then
mhm.
you're not going to be able to focus on any of those other priorities because you're going to get because I just published an episode a couple of weeks ago because I was so sick, but I
Yeah.
let myself get run down. Now, I
Yeah.
think I did pick up something, but my immunity was down because I hadn't been sleeping right and I
Yes.
wasn't eating right. I haven't been outside in forever because it was nasty weather and I don't
Mhm.
have good lighting, natural lighting in this apartment. So I literally did it to myself.
Yeah, I can 100% relate. We all as a family avoided the virus for 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I know for a fact last year I had a client engagement that was not aligned. And I was working probably 14 hours a day on this person's business. And my immunity was
Wow.
run down. It was very, very run down. I was in a weird place, I'll admit it. Like just because we think we've figured it out doesn't mean we don't fall back sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And my immunity was down. And that's when I suddenly started to get sick a lot. And so
Mm-hmm.
we've since remedied that. But those capacities are really, really important. Honoring how much you can realistically do and how much you want to do, right? That's
Right.
very important. But capacity also has another aspect to it that a lot of people don't think about or talk about. And that's the four capacities that I'm going to share with you. Time capacity, which we've talked about, energetic capacity. So when you wake up, your bucket may not be as full today as it was yesterday, right? Like it really
Mm-hmm.
depends. But then there's also resource capacity. How well resourced are you? Do you have support systems in place? So
Mm-hmm.
for example, if you have children, are you the primary caregiver? Are you a solo caregiver? Are you the primary parent? Or like the default parent? Are do you have childcare? Are the kids going to school? Right? There's
Mm-hmm.
all of that to think about.
Right.
Are you resourced in terms of mental health support, physical support? Are you eating well? Are you sleeping well? Like all of that is important in terms of resource
Mm-hmm.
capacity.
Mm-hmm.
And then the final one is money capacity. I am so sick and tired of coaches and consultants in the space who use money to shame people into thinking that they're not giving everything they can to their business. First of all, you don't need to give everything you have to your business, but also, right, if you are not financially secure and you invest in something, that is going to cause stress, which is going
Yes.
to then have a domino effect on the rest of your capacity.
Yes.
So understanding right now, what can I afford
Mm-hmm.
comfortably without putting financial stress on myself that will diminish my capacity? And people will say, but then I need to be able to invest X amount of dollars or I can't work with that person or whatever. And over the years, what I've learned is that if you're meant to work with somebody,
Mm-hmm.
you will find a way that doesn't necessarily have to put you in debt.
Right.
And as a service provider, coach, consultant, whatever, the good people, and I'm sorry if this is going to sound polarizing, but the good people are the ones who will find a way to work with you. That doesn't
Mm-hmm.
necessarily mean they're going to lower their prices.
Right.
But one thing that I do, for example, is I will build a package for people. If you can't afford a
Yes.
monthly retainer rate, then what
Mm-hmm.
what can you afford comfortably? And
Mm-hmm.
what can I do for you that's still going to help you move forward? It may
Yes.
not be the full service package,
Mm-hmm.
but you'll get something that'll help you move forward. Maybe it's not that, maybe it's a free resource. Maybe if you are truly invested in helping people, you will
Mm-hmm.
find a way to help them.
Right.
That
And
doesn't
I do
require
that too.
exploitation. Yeah.
I have different packages as well.
Yeah.
And you just get more coaching.
Yeah. More
If you,
access.
right. More access, more resources, more stuff. If you, but I don't want people to think that they can't grow just because
Yeah.
they can't afford it.
Yeah. And accessibility is a huge value of mine,
Mm-hmm.
helping people. And having said that, like flipping that on its head, as the service provider, you also get to honor your capacity. And that means you don't have to lower your prices so much to work with people that you are now you don't have a viable business because you're giving way more than you're taking in.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So,
And I've always heard you pour out first
yes.
before you start receiving. So don't go at it with a servant led heart is what I'm
Yes.
trying to say, I guess. You're not doing it just to make money. If you're really walking in the purpose for which God created you, you're doing it because you want to help somebody grow in some capacity. And yes, you can charge for that, but that is not your main goal in this life to
Yeah.
make money off of other people.
There's a fine line between support and exploitation.
Exactly.
And I think that we need to be careful of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but we get to honor our capacity and the capacity of the people who desire to work with us
Mm-hmm.
without either business suffering.
Right. And if someone is pressuring you and they're saying, well, you're only going to get this deal until tomorrow night, then you need to just get off that call right now
Yeah.
because that is not somebody you want to work with.
Scarcity-led tactics are very exploitative. And like, I get it. People have, fast action bonuses and things like that. But
Right.
I have never in my life seen a business owner. And again, I've worked in the back end of a lot of businesses. I've seen a lot of business owners who use that tactic to get people to, it picks on that scarcity wound of like, oh, if I don't do this now, I'm never going to, you will get a chance because they will either offer it again or they will extend the debt. Like trust me, nobody is filling up that quickly that they're not going to, turn your money away.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly.
So it's looking at it very pragmatically.
Right. Exactly.
And then the final sort of principle of the Audacity Factor. And I toyed with what I wanted to call this.
Mm-hmm.
And, I've talked about commitment and I've talked about partnership and I've talked about, I considered a lot of different things, but what I landed on was promise.
Well, I like that.
And it's the promise that you make to yourself to honor the other three principles: your purpose, your priorities, and your capacity. It's the promise that you make to yourself about sticking it through. It's the promise you make to yourself to continue to believe that you have what it takes.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the promise that you make to yourself that you don't have to do it alone.
Yes.
And so this is where we open up space for support and for resource and for coaching and guidance and all of those things that help make this journey less lonely, because being an entrepreneur is incredibly lonely.
Right.
We're in all of these communities and we have friends and colleagues and and at the end of the day, you are the only one who's shouldering everything in this business.
Right.
And so reminding yourself that you don't have to do it alone and promising that when it gets to a point where you're like, I don't know what to do, that you will reach out, whether it's paid support, unpaid support, a coach, a consultant, a mastermind, a group, it doesn't matter, but you get to ask for support.
Yes.
And especially as women, we do not thrive in solo environments the way we do in communities.
Exactly. Exactly. But we also are the creature who has a hard time asking for help.
Yes. Yes. So this is the promise.
Yeah.
Promise.
I don't understand why we have that. And I don't know. I guess we also have those limiting beliefs in that area. If I ask for help, then I'm weak or I'm a failure. Or, we talk about women's empowerment all the time. It's not being empowered doesn't mean you do everything on your own. Being empowered means you're helpful to others and you receive help as well.
Yes. And that is so important. The receiving help, right? We have to start diminishing this societal expectation or understanding that, you're only a strong woman if you do it on your own, and a strong woman doesn't ask for help, and a queen doesn't need a court. And it's wrong. Like, it's
It
just
is.
flat out wrong.
It is.
You are allowed to ask for help. It does not diminish you in any way. And that's the other thing my mother used to, God bless my mother, she used to say all the time that, because I would sometimes feel guilty about moments where I was feeling lost or without guidance and just kind of, distracted, and I needed something. And she would say, "Why don't you pray?"
Mm-hmm.
And I would say, "Because I've already asked God for so much."
Yeah,
And she's like, "Baby, that's what he wants. He wants
exactly.
help." And that changed so much for me. And I will hold my hand up. I still struggle to ask for help because I'm an eldest daughter of immigrant parents who worked in a corporate environment. There's a lot of things that kind of, coexist within me that make it hard for me to ask for help. But every single time I have humbled myself and asked for help, I have made such strides in growth
Mm-hmm.
and in understanding and in just my own sort of like coming back to myself.
Mm-hmm.
Community has been such an important part of my journey.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to keep reminding myself that, none of us have gotten here alone, and we don't have to continue going alone.
Right. And God wants us to ask him for help.
Absolutely.
But you're not asking for him to do specific things for you. You're not, it's not this going to the grocery store, God's grocery store, let me pick this out and this.
The
No,
drive-through.
it's not like that at all. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It is, you're going to him humbly saying, I don't know what to do. Please show me what you want me to do. And the Bible is full of people who fell on their face because they were at the end of their knowledge and their everything, and they didn't have anything left. And that was where that was what they had left, was to go straight to God. Well, don't get to that point. Go to God first before you have to fall on your face in desperation. He doesn't want you to come to him in desperate times. He wants you to come to him all the time.
All the time. And so it's that is part of the promise that you make to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you look at all four of these things together, right? Your purpose, so you're honoring why you're here.
Mm-hmm.
You're looking at your priorities. So now we're looking at the pragmatic, like these are the specific functions in the business that require my attention,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's not just manifesting and throwing things out into the air and hoping
Mm-hmm.
that you'll have a return. You're actually doing the hard work too, but you're doing it in a way that honors why you're here. You're doing it in a way that honors your capacity. And so I had mentioned before that when you honor your capacity, it's giving you almost permission to take a little bit longer, maybe, than
Mm-hmm.
somebody else, or
Mm-hmm.
maybe it'll happen quicker. Everybody's capacity is different. So it's important that we lean into that because it makes the priority piece easier, right? There's not any pressure now on having to achieve a particular outcome by a certain deadline.
Right.
And then there's that promise that, I've done the work. I've done the work of figuring out my why. I know what's important to work on, and I know how much time and effort and energy I have.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm going to promise to honor all of that. And I'm going to stay the course, and I'm going to give it time to work. That's the big one. I think a lot of people do not give it enough time to work.
Right.
We are in a society that is so hung up on instant gratification. And again, I'll use the examples of, 10K in 10 days or 6K, 6 figures in 6 months or whatever the rhetoric is.
And I had a past episode about that too. I was driving to work one day and I just realized we are an instant world.
Mm-hmm.
Everything, we can get everything instantly. We can get stuff from Amazon in 2 days, or if you're in the city, you can get it the same day sometimes.
Go to the warehouse. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Or you can go get your meal already cooked for you. And we have become an instant world, and we don't have patience for anything anymore. And we don't build our resilience. So because we think we're entitled. We feel like we need it now and we want it now, and we don't have to wait, and we don't want to wait.
100%. Turn the internet off and see what happens to your children.
Oh my gosh, let me tell you what, the other day when Facebook went down, I saw your post on there. Oh my goodness. I kind of figured out what had happened. I thought, because sometimes, I'll get logged out or whatever, and I was trying to log back in and it wouldn't let me, and I was trying to change my password, and I'm like, okay, well, what's going on? And then I realized, I think Facebook is down because Instagram was also down. And so I'm like, okay, I'm just going to do some other things. Once it came back up and I was back, like everybody, oh my gosh, Facebook was down. Facebook, get over it. You can live without Facebook. You sleep without Facebook. Come on.
Yes.
And it was what? It was only out for maybe 20 minutes.
Yeah, it wasn't even that long, but I did the same thing. I panicked and thought I was being hacked. And then I was like, wait a second.
Right.
And then I just did something else. And I think this is, we're having so many conversations in some of my spaces around social media and just how much pressure it puts on people. And, is it really the right thing for your business? And one of the reasons why it's so important to define your priorities as well is because maybe social media isn't how you market your business.
Right.
So you spending 2 hours a day creating content and reels and whatever else you're doing, maybe it's not the best use of your time. So when you look at building your business and growing what you're doing, whether it's a business or anything else, when you look at it holistically in that way, everything becomes easier. And I don't mean easy in the sense of like, oh, I can make it happen, but ease, right? Like there's an ease to all of it that I think just by the nature of what business in the online space is not there a lot of the time. There's a lot of hustle, there's a lot of stress, there's a lot of pressure.
Right.
But when you are able to do things with ease because they've been done intentionally and in alignment with you and your priorities and what's important for you to achieve, everything feels less heavy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's that heaviness that I think drives people to desperation and making choices that are out of alignment and going against their values and forgetting what's important. And I mean, it happens to the best of us, but if you can mitigate that to start with, why not?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. This was good stuff today, Sarah. Thank you so much for being on the show. If my audience wants to connect with you, how can they do so?
Well, my favorite place to be is Instagram. So you can find me on Instagram at corporate.rehab.
That is super easy to remember, but in case you have a brain like mine and you can't remember anything as soon as you turn around, then I will have all of her links in the show notes for you so you won't have any trouble finding her.
Fantastic.
It's been a blessing having you on the show. This was a great conversation. I loved bouncing back and forth like that. It's good, authentic connection, which is sometimes what we lack, that human touch and those authentic networks and connections. So thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an absolute pleasure.
And for the rest of you, I will see you back here next week.